Now to make his antenna, and you're going to make 2 of these. So with a purple DK yarn, I'm going to slip stitch, slip knot onto my 3.5mm hook, and I'm going to chain 2. Into the second chain from hook, I'm going to do 6 single crochet. So 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. On the next round, I want to increase from 6 stitches to 9. To do that, I'm going to single crochet into 1 stitch and then do 2 single crochets into the following stitch 3 times. So I'm going to single crochet for 1, increase in the next stitch for 2 and 3, single crochet 4, increase in the next stitch for 5 and 6, single crochet 7, increase in the next stitch for 8 and 9. Now I'm going to single crochet around these 9 stitches for 3 rows. So 3 rows of single crochet. After your 3 rounds of single crochet, we're now going to reduce back to 6 stitches. To do that, I'm going to single crochet into 1 stitch and then single crochet 2 stitches together 3 times. So single crochet 1, decrease for 2. Single crochet 3, decrease for 4. Single crochet 5, decrease for 6. So we have 6 stitches and we're going to single crochet around these 6 stitches for 5 rows. So 5 rows of single crochet. So after my 5 rounds of single crochet, it's time to fasten off. So slip stitch into the next stitch to join, chain 1, cut the tail, leaving a longer tail than normal because you'll use this to sew this antenna on top of the caterpillar's head. Then I'm going to bring in my stuffing again and I'm going to stuff the antenna. There we go, ready to be sewn onto his head. Next I'm going to make his eyes, and don't forget you need to make 2 of these, and I'm going to be using my 3mm hook this time because I want the eyes to be just a little bit smaller. So with the darker green that I used on the body, I'm going to begin with this, and I'm going to slip knot onto my 3mm hook and I'm going to chain 2, so 1 and 2, and into the second chain from hook I'm going to do 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch to join and fasten off with this green. Next I'm going to bring in a yellow colour and I'm going to slip knot onto hook, and on the next round we're going to increase from 6 stitches to 12. So like before, I'm going to do 2 single crochets into every stitch around to make our stitch count of 12. So first of all I've got to join this yarn, so I'm going to insert my hook into any of the stitches beneath, yarn over, pull up a loop, so there are 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through 2. So I have attached my colour and I have done my first single crochet. So I'm going to do another single crochet into that same stitch for a total of 2 single crochets. So now I'm going to increase in all the remaining stitches. So I've already done 1 and 2. So into the next stitch I'm going to do 3 and 4. Into the next stitch 5 and 6. Into the next 7 and 8. 9 and 10 into the next, and 11 and 12 into the last. Then I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch of this round to join, chain 1 and fasten off, and leave a little bit of a longer tail of yellow because we'll use that to sew on his eye. So next I want to attach the features onto his face, so I want to attach the eyes and the antenna. So find the part of the caterpillar where we did all our colour changes, and we want to make sure this is at the bottom of our work, so face that downwards. Now if we go to the head of the caterpillar, we've got 2 eyes and we've got 2 antennae that we want to attach to him. So pinning is your friend. It's better to pin 6 times and sew once than to sew it on and then you have to cut it back off and re-sew it in somewhere different. So I'm going to position the eyes where I want them. And then I can pin the antenna where I want them. Then you want to make sure you move things around until they are exactly where you want them. There we go. So with a bit of camera magic and the click of my fingers, we're going to sew these into place. There we go. So the only thing this little fella is missing on his face is his nose. So with some black yarn, I'm going to pop that onto my needle again, and I'm going to make his nose. And I'm going to do this by sewing over the same couple of stitches for a couple of times. So about 2 or 3 times over the same 2 stitches. So I'm going to bring my needle out by his nose, and I'm going to sew over the same 2 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 1 more, 4 times. There we go. I'm happy with that. Then I can cut off these tails. And a quick tip, if you ever cut your yarn tails and you can still see the yarn tail beneath, pop your hook in, pop your needle in even, and just give a little wiggle about underneath and it'll move that end so you don't see any of the yarn tails poking through your colour. Now to make his feet I'm going to be using a caramel colour, and I'm back to using my 3.5mm hook. So I'm going to start with a slip knot onto hook and I'm going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. And into the second chain from hook I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and I'm going to single crochet into the next 2 chains. So 1 and 2. And into the last chain I'm going to do 3 single crochet all into that chain space. 1, 2 and 3. So now I've rotated my work and I'm working down the back side of the foundation stitches. So I'm not turning and single crocheting back into the stitches I've just made. I'm working into the opposite side of the foundation chain. Next I'm going to single crochet 2, 1 and 2. And into the last stitch I'm going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. So we have 10 stitches working in a round. For the next row I'm just going to single crochet around these 10 stitches. So 10 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So now we want to decrease from 10 stitches to 8. To do that, the first thing I'm going to do is to single crochet 3. So 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3. Now I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together twice. So I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together once, and I'm going to do that again for twice. And then to finish this round I'm going to single crochet 3. 1, 2 and 3. So for the next round, we want to decrease from 8 stitches to 6. So to do that, I'm going to start by single crocheting 2. 1 and 2. And now I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together twice. So I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together once. And I'm going to do that again to make it twice. And then I'm going to finish this round with 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. So I now have 6 stitches, and I'm going to single crochet around these 6 stitches for 1 row. So just 1 row of single crochet. Then I can slip stitch into the next stitch to join, chain 1 and fasten off. And I'm going to cut the yarn and leave a bit of a tail to sew the foot on. So now I need to stuff this foot, and we don't want to overstuff it because it's only a small foot. But I'm going to push that yarn tail in to get it out the way. And then I'm going to get some stuffing again, and using the bottom of my crochet hook, I'm going to stuff this foot. And I'm happy with that. So now it's time to sew this foot on, and you need to make 6 of these feet. So I've showed you how to make 1, but you need to make another 5. So if we bring our caterpillar back in, I've already attached some of his feet. So you're going to attach 2 to his first body segment, 2 to his second body segment, and 2 to the 5th. So they'll look something like that. So I've got this one left to sew on. So I'm going to pop it into position, and then I'm going to pin it into place. Pop this yarn tail on my needle, and I'm going to sew this last foot onto the caterpillar. Oh. Whilst I'm doing this, I'd love it if you could tell me what you'd like me to make next in the comments. I have a list that I am compiling of things that people request, and I'm going to start getting around to making them. So let me know down below what type of tutorials you'd like and what you'd like me to make. And with that said, that is the last stitch on the foot. So all I have to do now is to weave in this tail. And caterpillar is taking shape. So we've just got his little body fuzz, or his body hair, to make along his back, and then he's complete. So the last thing we have to do is make the body hair or fuzz. So I've taken a couple of colours. I've taken the purple, the darkest green, the lightest green, and the yellow from the eyes, and I've cut a bunch of 4-inch strands of yarn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook stitch the strands of yarn down the centre and then cut them to size. So to make the hook stitching easier, I'm going to use the 3mm hook. So to hook stitch, if you're not sure what hook stitching is, it's when you insert your hook into a stitch. So I'm going to insert it through a stitch, and then I'm going to take the yarn, fold it in half, and pop the middle onto that hook. Then I'm going to pull the yarn through the stitch to form a loop, and then I'm going to take that loop and grab the tails of the yarn and pull it through the loop. And that is how to hook stitch. And I'm going to go up and down doing different colours in different places. So I'll speed this up so I don't bore you to death, but that's what we're going to do. So we're just going to fill his body up with different colours. And in some areas I'm going to use 2 strands of yarn at the same time, so 2 different coloured strands of yarn, and I'm going to hook them into the same stitch. And it's just going to create the look of thickness faster than doing 1 strand at a time. So it's looking really messy, but it's going to work out in the end. You just have to trust me. I'm not going to leave the fuzz at this length. So I'm just filling in the gaps, going down the centre of the caterpillar's back with either 1 or 2 strands of yarn at a time. And I'm trying to evenly space the colours out as much as I can. It looks more like a Chinese dragon at the minute, but I've gone right the way down the centre of the crocodile, right the way down the centre of the caterpillar, and now I'm going to push all these strands over to one side, and I'm going to go down the side filling in any gaps. So I'm going to fill in any gaps that I can see going down the side, then I'm going to flip the hair all the way back over the other side and do the same thing on the other side. So anywhere that looks a little bit thin, I'm going to put in more yarn. And this is completely up to you how thick you make it and how much fuzz you want. You can always trim it, have a look how it is, and then do a little bit more if you think it looks a bit thin. So this is what I have so far. So there's a lot of strands of yarn on the top of his back. So I'm going to cut them now and then see what it looks like, and I can make a decision then if I'm going to add more or not. But his hair is going to be cut really short. It's only going to be about 1.5 centimetres from his back. So it's literally going to look like some fuzz on his back. So these yarn strands were definitely too long for what I need, but they won't be wasted. I'll end up using these to fill up a different project instead of using stuffing. So I'm going to take a section and I'm going to cut it longer than I need, because I can always cut more but I can't glue it back on. So I'm going to pull them and then cut. So that is definitely longer than I need, so I'm going to cut a bit more off, and then I can use this as a guide. So that's about the length that I want. So now I can use this as a guide to cut the rest of the fuzz. So I'm going to pull a section of the yarn so it's the same height as that guide, and then cut straight across. So I'm just going to rub it into place, and there are some parts that are still a little bit longer, so this is where I'm going to go in and I'm going to freehand and cut this to exactly the same length all the way along. And that I'm happy with. So I'm going to add a couple of extra pieces where it looks thin, so it looks a little bit thin here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do some fine management. I'm going to find the little part that I need to thicken up, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like at the very end. And there you have the completed caterpillar. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on a cool video. And other than that, I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.